leading into this, Jonathan, how long was this movie in the works for? Because obviously it was started pre-COVID.
Yeah, so we found out had another interview with Gary yesterday, and we figured out that our first day of shooting was May 15th, 2017, and that was with Metallica playing that festival in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
And so that was the first day of shooting. We prepped before that, obviously getting it all together. So basically, off and on, we'd shoot at a festival here, we'd go edit, we'd raise some more money, we'd festival here, then we got a deal for the film, and then just as we were getting ready to finish, and try to get into the release pattern of a COVID shot us in the head, and then it was, we have, and at that time we had a one night theatrical release lined up, with a good solid company that does that. And we had talked to them for like a year and a half. They'd seen all the cuts and they've gotten help, and then all of a sudden it was like a Brahmarama came along, and I said, wow, and then they couldn't really coexist because a Brahmarama is a company that does a lot of theatrical stuff, but they were just not believers in theatrical. They didn't want to send people into theaters for fear, you know what I mean? That you get people sick. And I was like, wow, you're right. I haven't been to a fucking theater in a year, so I get it. So
Sure.
we basically blew off that one night release, which I really wanted that because I've seen this movie on a screen with a bunch of like-minded people, and it fucking rocks. You know what I mean? So to not have that is very frustrating. The flip side of that is we fill a really interesting void right now, right? People like us who are music addicts want to go to shows and can't, especially festivals with a lot of people,
Yeah.
stand shoulder to shoulder with people and just fucking rock out. This is that little thing, our gift to them, to be able to say, okay, hold on, it's coming, it's coming back, but here, this is going to tide you over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Seeing the trailer for the first time, I immediately saw the Sonic Temple Festival in Columbus and went, that's what that is. Because that was one of my last press trips before COVID hit, where I was a guest of the city and also had media credentials on site thanks to the Wimmer team. And that festival and the Louder Than Life festival kind of renewed my faith in rock, because you see all these people and to them rock never died. That's what they listen to, that's what their local radio station plays, and that's that. Do you find that it's the New York and the LA people that primarily have to be sold that rock never died?
Yeah, I mean, look, the media, and I think we covered a little bit in the film, the media, because of hip hop's dominance and pop's big presence, and
Yeah.
because of the off putting nature of tattoos and long hair and screaming and, fucking loud guitars, when electronic music came in, guitars, and Jason Flom's got a great line, when did guitar solos become outlawed, you know? And that's why something like Greta Van Fleet's refreshing, because it brings girls back, and the heart, a little bit of a heartthrob meets rock and roll. But yeah, the point is going to Columbus, Ohio, and seeing this level of crowd surfing, moshing, passion for this music that I had totally gotten away from in my world. I always loved Metallica. I always loved Rage. They're always my couple of my favorite acts. Grew up with Led Zeppelin and Sabbath and Kiss. I had Kiss all over my walls and Sabbath, and Zeppelin was my number one band and still is.
Yeah.
But you move on into different genres. I became more alternative, singer-songwriter. New Orleans music. Went to school in New Orleans. I love New Orleans music. All my friends are Grateful Dead people. I love that music. And so this music is very far away from that. But the subculture of it, the passion of it, this symbiotic relationship between these bands that tour like Skillet, they basically live on their bus, right? And their kids go with them, and it's a family thing, and they're Christians and they're beautiful people. And you meet these fans, and they are just normal, everyday people in the Midwest who have to suffer through the scourge of the Oxycontin addiction, and life being hard, and we're just fucking, the coaster like jaded, you know what I mean? And like it's a different false universe, and the media that comes out of New York and LA, channels into the country, and you see why people are disenfranchised and why someone like Trump could take a foothold into these people, because the liberal elites and that whole fucking bullshit that goes on. The bottom line is we're just different, very different. We're all the same humans. We're all Americans, but yet the way we lead our lives and the way we do things and even the music we listen to, is incredibly different. And rock in a way is like its own thing, like country's its own thing.
Mhm.
And if you fucking love country, you love country. You got your pickup, you got your flag, you got your music, you love it, and that's it. So it's just another thing in a way that separates us. But a lot of what I love about music, it can just bring random people together, and that's the beauty, and that's the thing that we're trying to show in the movie, that it is a community, and that's
Yeah.
what we loved about it.
One of the things that you said where you start off as the hard rock guy and then you branched out. Me too. I started off with the hard rock, then hip hop and pop and singer songwriter. You learn about Crowded House, you do your homework there. And then eventually I just came back full throttle to Kiss, Van Halen, and all that. And that just
Well, when you
became
listen to Van
it.
Halen's first album, and you
Yeah.
listen to the Kiss live album, and you listen to Led Zeppelin, and you listen to fucking the Black Sabbath record, it's like, I don't know what's better than that shit. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, I love Neil Young. He's my favorite between him and Zeppelin. But those fucking records, man, you just got to turn that shit up. Like Rage, like you can't not listen to Rage and turn that shit up.
Yeah.
And so again, it's just how you're wired, how you're brought up, I guess. And Andy Gould had a good line in the movie, talking about how, if you're a Yankee fan, your son's probably going to be a Yankee fan. If you like, metal, your kid's probably going to like metal. And so it's just interesting how it's generational, it's community, and it's a fascinating subculture. And I'm just glad we really got it done when we did.
Yeah. One of the things that I find over and over and over again, as somebody who does interviews 5, 6 days a week, is that the most well-spoken people that you interview that are musicians are generally hard rock and metal people. And it's multi-generations here. If you've survived Gene Simmons interviews like I have, you quickly realize you're nowhere near as bright. If you talk with David Lee Roth, he's smarter than everyone. If you listen to Jonathan Davis, that's a smart guy. Mustaine, Jeff Tate, it's
You know who the smartest is? Do you ever talk to Claudio from Coheed and Cambria?
him. I haven't yet. I know who signed him to a
Interview
publishing
with him
deal,
because
but
he was one of my biggest regrets. Like I had the greatest hang with that guy. I think we talked for like an hour. Most interviews were scheduled like 20 minutes.
yeah,
But but the problem is we went off on all this shit about science fiction and making movies and all this shit, and like none of it was really relevant for the movie. And it was kind of frustrating because I just love that guy. I never even knew about the band, and I'm not like a huge fan of theirs or anything, but like you're right. Some of these people are much, and again, that's the same thing about everything about this movie. You can't judge a book by its cover, right? They're off-putting in the sense of how they look, how they act, the music they sing, but at its core, they're just really good people.
now having finished a movie, does that lead you to go, man, I want to do another festival movie, or are you kind of one and done because this was such an
No, it's
intense
interesting.
project?
This is actually the second movie of mine. So the first movie, I met these young filmmakers, and we ended up doing a movie about the cosplay Comic Con culture, another outlier subculture
Mhm.
that is absolutely fantastic. And when I wrote and produced a movie with Snoop Dogg called Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror for Lionsgate over a decade ago, and I went to debut the movie at Comic Con, and I was like, what are these people doing? Like, do they know Halloween happens one day a year? And I didn't quite get it because this is 10 years ago. And so with these kids, I got into it, and we went to a bunch of cons together, and we started shooting with these people and found out, much like hard rock fans, that they are just, they use this music, they use this cosplay as like transformation. Like a lot of them have become trans, and they just try out different personas, and it's this unique subculture that they go and dress up at these cons and they get together, and it's no different than a music festival, except there's no good music at a con, right? And so anyway, that was my first film. That had 2 bankruptcies on it, but through that, and it still hasn't come out, but it's about to. Um, Through that, I pitched this other idea about another subculture film, the hard rock film. And when I went to Columbus, we shot, we did a sizzle, and we pitched it to this British company who's since gone bankrupt, and they wrote us a check to help make this movie. So, yes, the idea is my second film is another subculture film, and then I'm producing one about Muhammad Ali after that. So, COVID's been really busy being able to learn to edit and finish this film and work on these other films. But I'm just excited that this film's getting out there now.
So this is intended to be a compliment. Most people kind of decry, well, the music industry is dead. There used to be jobs in the music industry. It sounds like you've found your footing in working with a variety of artists on a variety of projects that may or may not have nothing to do with actual albums, tour cycles, and all that, but you're in the music business just in a unique alternative kind of way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it started for me is when I was at Jive Records, and we came
It,
up with the idea to
hence
do.
the Britney plaque behind you
Yeah,
right there.
we came up with the idea to do Crossroads,
Yeah.
and Clive Calder was unique being. He's like, go for it, and he wrote an $11 million check. We made Crossroads, Britney's only movie, and when she was 16 years old, and I just was magic. It was magic. It was like I'd worked at film companies before. I worked at New Line. I worked for Dino De Laurentiis, and I kind of had this scheme going that I want to make movies, and I was going to stay at New Line. Toby Emmerich was on the way up, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I got an offer to go to Jive Records to do soundtracks, and I passed. And those guys were not used to Barry Weiss and Clive Calder and Neil Portnoy were not used to people saying no to them. But I came back with a pitch. I said, well, you should start a film company and a record company. They're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you have all these assets like Justin Timberlake. These people guys are going to be movie stars. Why don't you invest in their first film or their first TV show, do development? And Clive Calder said to me, he goes, it's really interesting because I was offered to be involved with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air because I had Will Smith with Jazzy Jeff from Fresh Prince, and I passed. And I always regretted it. So now that you mention it, I'm down. So he basically gave me, like, let me go to Sundance and let me go to writers' labs and producers' conferences and learn how to write and produce. And I basically set up this, film company to record company. So I've kind of been doing, and then I went to Def Jam and I saw Justin Bieber for the first time playing at the mall, and I was like, oh my God, I got to figure out how to make a movie with this guy. And we figured out with Randy Spendlove at Paramount, we figured out we figured out Never Say Never.
Right.
So I've kind of always had that in my head. And, with Janis Joplin, I was friends with the estate, and I said, hey, why don't I bring in this friend of mine who I coach her son in Little League? She's just nominated for an Academy Award. And so we brought in Amy Berg and we did Janis Little Girl Blue. I took it to Sony. Adam Block got it, gave us money to start it. And, then I get in the back seat, right? Because bigger producers like Alec Gibney come on. And so if you play that role, for me, in a way, this is the first time I'm out front, right? Normally I've been setting these things up, working on them, and then I do the Justin Bieber movie, and then Scooter Braun takes over and does it,
Right.
And so with John Chu, and they do great shit. The more big people you're attached to that have talent, like those guys, like Amy Berg or John Chu, you play your role. I'm not a power hitter. I'm a utility guy. I'm happy to play second or first base, get a hit or two a game, try not to make any errors, but I'm not gonna fucking back clean up and hit the ball over the fence. So it's an interesting analogy as a baseball softball guy of how to play the game. And I'm almost going to be 60, right? So it's like I've been doing this a long time, and I've had a number of different careers through the music business and film business. Making big soundtracks when that was a thing, and I love that. Music supervising, I still love.
Mm-hmm.
But the aspect of making a movie and putting it all together and working as a collaborative team with guys like Gary Spivak and my editor and my cinematographer and the marketing guys now with Abram Arama, because I know how to market too because I've been doing it for years. It really is a blessing to be able to do this and just hope that it turns out something good that people like. And again, reviewers are always going to piss on things because that's the nature of things. But you know what? If the fans dig it, and that's all I give a shit about. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. It's a love letter to them and the bands that fuel them.
I had the Jose Oquendo analogy on the tip of my tongue when you're talking about being a utility player who goes between positions, and then you kind of became a Barry Bonds-like figure. But
you're Jewish, right? You're
yes.
Jewish? Okay, so I'm a mixed Jew. I'm a Schlepper, half Irish, half Jew. But anyway, for example, there's a game out here which has been going on for 25 years, run by a softball game, run by a guy named Alan Wertheimer. And it's like all these young CA agents and William Morris and fucking big, fucking guys that played college ball, whatever, now playing wood bat softball. So on that team, I bat ninth and I play second or first. Then there's the Jewish softball D League, okay, where I play third, bat second, Gary Spivak plays short, bats third, right? And we're some of the best guys on the team. So it just depends on what team you're on, right? It's all different.
Well, that leads to another obsession of mine, and this I'll bring this up. Ask my last question, then you're a free man, and that's I'm finding softball has been the biggest connector in the music business that people haven't put together. So doing a lot of interviews related to Van Halen folklore, I've learned that in the early to mid 80s, there was an ongoing softball game that sometimes Eddie Van Halen played in, but
Well,
all like,
There was a Valley Entertainment League.
yes,
The Valley Entertainment League, I got into a little bit late when I moved out here, but yeah, it was legend. It was a legendary thing, and that's where I met, the guys who managed the Gypsy Kings. We became friends through that league, and a number of other KLOS people. Yeah, it was a fun thing back then.
when I was talking to Jesse Harms, the keyboardist who played with Hagar on and off for 30 years, I said, how'd you get that gig? And then he started talking about that softball league. And then if we go back, 10, 15 years before that, the Hollywood Vampires were essentially a softball team.
Is that right?
Well, or at least they played softball. I don't know how much actual playing they did versus being hung over, but I'm just finding softball is kind of the weird underbelly of hard rock. And
Hey, question for you: you watched the movie? Did you see the movie?
I saw the trailer first. I'm going to watch the full thing tonight
Yeah.
because it grabbed me.
No, it's too bad because we should do a follow up after that because it really there's some interesting points that like the whole addiction and recovery thing became a big point that wasn't planned on for the movie. It just happened because we showed up that in Columbus and Chris Cornell happened to die the night before, and
Yeah.
we were still making a feel good movie, and then we were going to interview Chester months later from Lincoln Park, and he died. So there's now an 8-minute segment in the movie about addiction and recovery, which is also something important I want to talk about because again, as a filmmaker, if someone, you could help anybody, just alleviate their day and make it a happier day, or do something. It's also those are important things you want to try to hit on too.
Absolutely. I will mention that within the copy itself. So the last question, which is an absolute softball, no pun intended, actually. You're a TV adjacent, film adjacent person, but do you have a TV recommendation that you could pass along? Someone who needs a new show to start?
Have you seen Money Heist?
I have not seen Money Heist. Where's
Money
that on?
Heist has been on like the top of Netflix for like a year, and I was like, it's in Spanish, it's 3 seasons, whatever it is. I'm like, not gonna go with that. My friend's like, look, just gotta fucking get into it. And then it's that dopamine thing. Like you'd start, my wife didn't want to watch it, so 9 o'clock at night, whatever. I'd start one, I'd go two, I'd go three. It's midnight. I'm like, fuck, man, I gotta go to sleep. And that's where the binging is because they don't even give you a chance. It's like if you don't hit that remote right away, the shit starts up and you're locked in.
Right.
So Money Heist to me is that new one that I just knocked. If you haven't seen Peaky Blinders, my son also just binged that. I saw that a year or two ago, but those two are fucking fantastic. So,
Okay. The man's got taste.
Darren, what's your email?
It's my name, Darren.Paltrowitz. Like when it's Paltrow with the it's.
So it's
Gmail.
I'm sorry, Palowitz.
Paltro.
Paltro.
Paltrowitz. ITZ.
Right. Okay. At what?
At gmail.com.
Okay, cool. And where do you live?
Long Beach, Long Island, New York.
Nice. That's beautiful. Yeah. So I grew up between Staten Island in the winter, and my father had an art gallery in Sag Harbor.
Oh.
So we just drive out there every summer and spend it out there. I mean, I love that area.
Billy Joel turf.
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Well, make sure that you give me the feature image you want used of you enter the movie, or
How
else
much
I'll
room
just
do you have for shit? Do you have room for headshot and movie poster?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you my headshot and the poster. That'd be great.
Thumbs
I've
up, Jonathan.
the poster, but we haven't seen the headshot yet, which is always good. Dude, pleasure catching up again. Do you still speak to Kitman?
Once or twice a year, I'll get a, hey, do you remember anything about this deal?
And like for me, he used to be like, once a year, he'd be like, hey man, I'm coming to town tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got a new blank car, whatever that fucking car they gave us. Do you want to have lunch and drive to Malibu? Like, fuck yeah, Jamie, let's go.
Yeah, for the weird thing about it all was, so OK Go let him go. They went to Andy Gershon. I don't know if you know
No,
him.
Andy.
He was there, I guess, 3, 4 years. Then they didn't have a manager for a year and a half, and then they went to the day-to-day guy under Jamie, which is Pete. So Pete's managing OK Go now.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
they kind of came back to the nest a little bit.
Right. That's great. Well, it's so great to catch up, man, because that was a fun movie. So, and I think you'll like this one. I look forward to you watching it.
I will watch it and I'll drop you a line afterwards with the wife. Thank you.
Let's do. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. Take care.
Paltrocast.